Let's podcast alongside Joe Giglio. I'm Joe Ovies. We got plenty to get into today. We're going to start with the Carolina Hurricanes. We'll be joined by Tripp Tracy, Valley Sports, in a few. But Joe, we got a Hey Joe question about this, which we'll also get around to later this morning. Was that a Rod special last night against the New Jersey Devils? Were they dominated?
I mean, it's funny, Joe. I watched the game last night, go to the game last night. Shout out to Mike Sondheim, Carolina Hurricanes, for credentialing the OG Live podcasting company. I appreciate him. We appreciate him, of course. Here's the number one thing I thought about watching that game at PNC Arena. I'm going to tell you something about my two favorite players in the history of North Carolina basketball.
All right.
Okay? Number one was Ed Cota, because I love point guards. He was a boss. I loved all of the alley oops that he threw to everybody. Okay. Loved Ed Cota. Second, my second favorite player is one of yours as well. And I'm not speaking out of turn here. Kobe White.
Oh, yeah.
We loved Kobe White. It was a blur. He had the hair. He was a great story. He was almost always smiling. All I could think about last night was Kobe White and his 1 year at Carolina, because he was so fast. He was the epitome of what Roy wanted. And all I could think about watching the poor Devils try to keep up with the Carolina Hurricanes was, you can't run with Roy. And you and I both like that state team in 19. But you remember, Kevin had CJ Bryce. And I'm thinking, oh, man, they get up and down the floor. Markel Johnson, when he was good, Markel Johnson.
No.
Do you remember the game in Chapel Hill? 113 to 96. So you're sitting here going, as a state fan, hey, man, they scored 96 points. Yeah, buddy. They gave up 113.
No,
cannot
it's the other part.
With Roy. Yeah, and now maybe we have to say, now that Roy is retired, you can't run with Rod, right? You cannot run with Rod.
No, you really can't. You really can't. And that's where we kind of start with the whole Rod special part. By the way, it also jotted down, rest is good. I know you and I talked about this last week when it came to wrapping things up with the Islanders and hoping that Devils and Rangers series goes the distance. I think it actually worked out perfectly for the Carolina Hurricanes that it went to 6. And they ended up getting a nice weekend. And then obviously the Devils are emotionally drained coming off of Game 7. They're missing Timo Meier because of that nasty hit in Game 7 of the Rangers game. And then that allows them to focus on the Devils' best player on the ice. And another aspect of the whole Rod special, it wasn't the exact replica of what we saw in that regular season game against Tampa a couple of months ago. But, dude, that first period was pure keep away. They had one shot. So, it's funny. I actually give a lot of credit to Freddie Anderson, because for goalies, it's just as difficult to deal with sitting back there, not doing a lot of work, when suddenly, the Devils are going to get some opportunities. Once he actually had to get engaged, then he was actually pretty good, which gets to the other part about Freddie over Raanta. And I'll say this, and I heard Adam Gold talking about this as well, that they had Freddie Anderson for a reason, right? They signed Freddie Anderson for this. We never really got to see it last year because everybody got hurt. And while the Hurricanes have been dealing with some injuries this postseason, they've managed to get through it because of the next man up mentality. It's a very resilient group. You got the workhorse that Jordan Stahl is, and he had an incredible game last night. Anderson, if healthy, you're going to have to give him the opportunity to get things going, to hit him in a rhythm. And the reason why I say that is because Raanta has always understood his role, right? I know there's the hot goalie theory, and why would you not go back to Raanta given the way that he had played in the Islanders series? Well, 2 reasons. The first one is you have to preserve Raanta. And I hate talking about his injuries, but they are a reality. And you have to wonder, okay, when's it going to happen to Antti Raanta? So if they can rest him, so to speak, if they can preserve him, and I think that's why Freddie Anderson ended up starting Game 6, because Raanta was probably tired. Well, then give him that rest, which gets to the other aspect of Raanta, which I absolutely love. And we hear this from his teammates, and we know this about him. He understands his role. He knows he's the backup. Rod Brind'Amour's talked about that with us in previous conversations when we were talking about 3 goalies. They never have to worry about Raanta. If he has to be plugged in, he's more than happy to go back in there and do his job. So, look, you could not have asked for a better start for the Carolina Hurricanes in their win over the Devils.
Yeah, and to me, Joe, when you think about it, at the deadline, a lot of people talking about, hey, and us included, right? Hey,
Mhm.
the Canes have to make a move. Look what Tampa did. Look what New York did. Look what the Islanders did. Look what the Devils did with Timo Meyer.
Mhm.
And I know a lot of teams wanted Seth Jarvis. And I got to tell you, I think Jordan Stahl is going to be a legacy with me always. I love Jordan. I love the way
Of
that he
course.
plays. I love his leadership. I love how he's kind of quiet the way that he is, and he'll jab you a little bit. But to me, the way that Jarvis has that swag, that confidence, and you cannot freaking teach that, and that's when you talk about coaching, right? And Rod, I'm slightly disappointed in you bringing up the goaltending this early in the conversation. I'll just say that to
It
you.
was a story. Come on
I'll
now.
give
It
you
was a
that.
story. It was a
No,
storyline going into the
no, no,
game.
no. This was the e-bug situation. That's how
Okay.
well they played last night.
Okay. Okay.
They absolutely. This was a classic horses for courses. Again, you want to run with me? You want to like all I could think about was hanging out with Roy in the Carrier Dome
Yeah.
after they just absolutely obliterated
Yeah.
Syracuse, and I'm thinking, this guy knows the answers to the test. Are you kidding me? You're going to
Yeah.
zone me? Get the hell out of here! You're going to run with me
Are,
now.
are, are you
To
saying this
continue
is
the
your best play? Are
basketball
you saying
analogy.
is this a best players have to be your best players analogy? Is that what we're getting at here?
There's a little bit of that because I thought Jarvis understood the assignment.
Mhm.
His goal was beautiful. The confidence, the speed reminded me of Eric Cole charging down the ice, really getting the crowd going as a young player. And that energizes the rest of the team as
Mhm.
well. The defense also picking up the slack. You and I have talked about how important it is without those forwards that the defense has been what's actually been picking up the goal production. So to
Yep.
see Brett Pesce score the first goal, and then Brady Shea, who in the pregame skate was actually asked, "Hey, like Corey Laviolette was like, hey, is it odd that the defense hasn't really been scoring in the playoffs?" And sure enough, they popped two in last night, including the big one from Pesce early. I thought the Canes announced their presence with authority last night. Just to go through all of my cliches here, if you're about that life, be about that life. And in the first period last night, that was the Carolina Hurricanes. Oh, but to your point about the Devils, you know
Mhm.
what else they look like? And I have a chart for this. That looked like a Carolina hangover to me. That
Yeah.
looked like NC State, Lakeista McCullough just made
Yep.
16 threes and then had to turn around and play
Yeah.
Maryland. And after the Devils had an emotional series, they're
Yes.
a young team too, Joe. That's a lot to ask.
It
And then,
is.
and then if you want to talk about the goaltending, it's Akira Schmid. I'm not saying he turned into a pumpkin because he played poorly in game 6 against the Rangers and then bounced back in game 7. But that was a Schmid show.
Not everything can be 2006. And I know you tweeted about this. It was
Yeah.
like, oh, look at this. It's like the inverse of the Canes in '06. You got to get past the big bad Devils constantly in those early 2000 series, right? And now the Canes are the ones who have been dominating things. And the Devils are back into this. And I know you talked to Steve Politti, our friend up in New Jersey. And it's been a while for the Devils to have been back in the situation. So they're the upstart. They're the ones that are trying to knock down a team that has been really, really consistent in their division for the last 5 years. But not
And
everything
young,
is
Joe.
not in
They're
young,
a
and
young.
not everything is magical. You can't just put in the rookie goalie and things are going to turn out your way. And that's why I absolutely was go let them fight. The old meme, let them fight. That's what I wanted out of the Rangers and the Devils. And it gets back to what we started talking about yesterday at the end of the show. Bracket luck, man. So now this Canes group that is just as opportunistic and is just as resilient is going to find a way to make this happen. I'm
I
not going
got
to
a
go
stat
like
for
full.
you.
I'm not going to go full Canes in 3. This is too good
Sure.
of a Devils team to not bounce back after that emotional letdown. But I can see this. I can see this thing going 6.
I got a stat for you because I had to look it up
All right.
because when the Canes stay on schedule, I feel like they're really hard to beat. And since they've moved to North Carolina, they've had 11 playoff series where they've won game 1.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know how many times they've won the series out of those 11 when they win game 1?
I do not, but you're going to tell me.
I am going to tell you, and then I want you to guess at one of them because it was very notable. So I hope you know one of them.
Okay.
They were 9. They are 9-2 when they win game 1 of a playoff series. 9-2. So they've won 9 of 11 playoff series when they win game 1. Now, give
Okay.
me a notable historical one where they won game 1 and lost.
I mean, were they won game 1 and lost?
Yeah, I'll give you a hint.
Was it 0-2? Was it 0-2?
Yeah, game 1 of the 0-2 Stanley Cup Finals. Ron Francis scores, beats Hasek. I think it was Chris Seward. Got a great picture of that for the News and Observer.
Chuck Caton loses his mind on the broadcast. In living color and everything else. So
yes, and then the other one was last year. The Rangers. They win game 1, protect their home ice, but I'll tell you what, Joe. Last night reminded me of that Islanders series from 19.
Mm-hmm.
That was a round 2 series. It was a young Islanders team. They get them here, and it was just kind of like, round 2 has a different energy, right?
Yes.
And it'll never be more personified than it was in 19. They have this long layoff, and you remember everyone in the building in 19 when the Capitals and a big battle Ovechkin, and then he cold cocks Svech, and everyone. That place was electric. That's as loud as I've ever heard that building.
Yeah.
But then in the second round, it was like, oh wait, there's more. And then that game, like the later games, you're like, well, no, wait a second, I gotta save my money because we got the conference finals, and then you got visions of sugar plums dancing in your head, like I'm gonna need $200-$300, $400 for the Stanley Cup tickets too. So I felt a little bit of that energy last night.
Oh gee.
Oh gee.
Oh gee.
Oh gee.
I guess that's what you get for rights free. Maybe, I don't know. We're gonna have to workshop. this one. I mean, it's fine. It's fine. We'll I'll talk to Dimitri about that.
Gee.
Oh gee.
Wait a minute. It's on loop. I'm still learning StreamYard, by the way, to do all these funky things. So as I said in the first show, bear with us. There's going to be some learning curves thrown our way. But the one thing we don't have to worry about, Joe, is Jonathan Rand delivering the goods. Rand is back in the rap game. You want to play it?
I do. So let's remind people, for context purposes, as she's talking in radio, not everyone follows everything that we do. Jonathan Rand was our producer for the first 2 years of our program, and Jonathan is musically inclined, and he was also in an a cappella group at NC State, the Sands of the Hourglass.
No. It was the Grains of Time.
Grains. So is okay.
Yeah.
Grains of Time. We did a running bit that we called a cappella of the news, even though breaking. It was not a cappella. But he would take these events and sing a song to them. So I texted him after we had hatched our plan. I said, hey, man, I need a theme song for the OG. And he said, oh, I'm on it. I didn't know what he was going to cook up.
Here it is.
Here we go again. We know y'all be listening. The OG back and better than it's ever been. Blast from the past, you know that our pace is fast. And if you want to sub, we got something for you to smash. 5 stars with them positive vibes. Don't miss a beat week to week, you just gotta subscribe. Even if your team's got you hella mad, don't worry, we write our prescriptions on a yellow pad. So settle in, y'all, this is gonna be fun. Cause when it comes to hot takes, 2 is better than 1. From beer to the Canes to the ACC, who knows more about this than us, the OG?
Well done, Rand. Well done. That'll have to be incorporated into the podcast for sure.
I told him that we'll have we'll go to the corner of Rand Road and New Rand Road. We'll get the Kirkland sweat hoodie out and the sweatsuit out. We'll record that intro. So we'll definitely have the OG life going on. Appreciate Rand. Saw him last night. Came too. He had tickets with his buddy Matt. Great to see him.
I dig it. All right. So last week, when we last left you, I was preparing to talk about the NFL draft. So better late than never, right, Joe? Better late than never to talk about the Carolina Panthers and the NFL draft. They did the thing that everybody expected them to do the last few weeks, despite gambling lines shifting and everything else. They go with Bryce Young. The rest of the draft for the Panthers, Joe, and shout out to Chandler Zavala from NC State, who I think he's like now a crusty veteran on that Panthers squad. Given the and honestly, there's a separate conversation to be had about the draft and how the Panthers drafted older guys who some people will view as a project, but the Panthers were positioning it as the COVID year was adding all sorts of older dynamics for a bunch of different teams, and they feel that developmentally they can get out of whatever college program that might have not been utilizing the best. They can go back. I think DJ Johnson is pretty much in this boat. DJ Johnson's a bit of a project they picked up later. I know folks were a little thrown off by the fact that they moved up to get him, but that's neither here nor there. That's a conversation for later in the summer as we get a better idea of what this roster is going to look like and it's going to shake out. But none of this matters, Joe, if Bryce Young isn't the right pick. I mean, it's as simple as that. You can like Mingo and what he might bring to the table as a little bit of a reach, but he's got the size, he's got the body to be a versatile wide receiver. But none of this matters if Bryce Young is not what they expect him to be, a franchise-changing quarterback. That's the question. I keep seeing the word unique used. He has a unique skill set. I've seen him described as a point guard, a manager. Shout out to Mike K at the Charlotte Observer who jotted that down. But when you say unique, you have to also say why he's unique. And I know a lot of Panthers fans are sick and tired of hearing about it, but it's absolutely a storyline, man. It's his size. Did you see the picture of him and Brent Burns? Not Brent Burns. Brian Burns? Did you see the picture of him and Brian Burns? It's like me with a toddler. It's eye-opening.
I told you this at the combine and his pro day. Look on the sidelines going, there's a kid in a backpack. Wait, that's the guy? Now, those are just first looks, right? I think if Bryce Young can stay on the field, right? I think he can be a franchise quarterback. I think he can be someone who this season leads them to a division title and into the playoffs if he stays healthy and on the field. Now, will he have a higher ceiling than that? Can he ultimately lead them to a Super Bowl title? I do not think he will be durable enough to do that. And I do think a lot of people are going to overreact when he plays really, really well this season.
Yeah.
You got to remember, Nick Saban is not afraid to, I'm not going to use the word, I'll just say he is not, choose your words here, even on no FCC rules. Nick Saban benched, Jalen Hurts at halftime of the national championship. Okay. So Nick Saban does not trifle with his quarterbacks.
No, he doesn't. Okay? And look at here's the thing. You say he benched him. It happened. Where's Jalen Hurts now? He's making $50 million a year, right? So anyway.
My point though, have you ever heard a single crossword out of Nick Saban about Bryce Young?
No.
Right?
Not a one.
Nothing.
Not
a single thing. So I think Bryce Young's intelligence is off the charts. That is going to help him. I think his accuracy is off the charts. That is going to help him. But the question is he going to be able to stay on the field? He got hurt last year in kind of a simple rollout, and we've seen that before. And you talk about the size question, the visual, right? Remember Cam Newton up in Buffalo confronting Kelvin Benjamin, who is a hoss.
He's a big dude. He's a big dude.
And he was lording over him. And Thomas Davis came over and you were like, and he's a linebacker, by the way.
Right. Who's the linebacker again? Look, the whole reason why Cam Newton was officiated the way that he was officiated is because he didn't know what to do. It's like LeBron rules or Shaq rules.
I think visually for Panthers fans, that is going to be a challenge. But I have no doubts about his ability to manage a team. I have no doubts about his ability to understand an offense and run it efficiently. And again, I'm telling you right now, once we start a little bit of a gambling podcast, some episodes, we'll just call them episodes. I'm going to take a Panthers ticket to win the division. I'm going to take a Panthers ticket on their season total over, because I believe that he is going to have success immediately. I do wonder, though, if that will be his ceiling. That is my concern.
We'll get back to the Panthers discussion. We'll hear from Scott Fitterer, the general manager of the Carolina Panthers. We talked to our friend Josh Graham over at WSJS, and we'll also get to the moment that Scott Fitterer knew that Bryce Young was the guy.
Gee.
Oh, gee. Now, we don't have a sponsored hotline yet. Maybe we'll get one. I mean, it's out there. It's open to anybody who wants to sponsor this thing. But he just popped on the StreamYard. He is Tripp Tracy, Bally Sports, Carolina Hurricanes. Tripp, thank you for being part of episode number 2 of Ovies and Giglio.
Joe's, it's great to be with you. I'm just, bear with me because my dog Frank is trying to bite my tripod, and let's just hope it stays stationary. Frank, can you try not to? I'm with the 2 Joes.
So, Tripp, let's just go ahead and get into it. Joe and I started the show talking about it like this. I don't think you could have asked for a better setup for the Carolina Hurricanes and this round of the playoffs. You have an emotional letdown for the Devils after a tough 7-game series, the emotions of getting over a Game 7. It goes 6 for the Canes. It gives them the break over the weekend, and they just put the clamps down. 1 shot on goal. I mean, even you had to be impressed by the way things started.
Yeah, I really was. I did, like Rod did, have a concern about the layoff, although you'd always take it, especially with the physical toll of the Islanders series. But then a couple things, because I try to rely on experience in terms of what's happened in the last few years, with the fact that Carolina won against the defending Stanley Cup champion Washington Capitals in double overtime and went into New York, similar scenario, and won the first two games in New York. Although back then you could have argued the Islanders could have or probably should have won at least one, maybe both games. And then I see Boston and Seattle after they win Game 7s on the road going and win Game 1 of the next series. So it's easier said than done, but the Hurricanes in the first period played completely to their identity. As fast as New Jersey is, they were the quicker team, the Hurricanes. I mean, I could think about some individual efforts that pop out to me. And then I thought, gentlemen, that when New Jersey started to build a game at 3-1 in the second period, you had a power play that was very good for Carolina, hit a couple of posts, and I'm like, ooh, and then Dougie Hamilton drew a high stick with 4:26 left to play in the second period. And I'm like, okay, if you can get to the second intermission no worse than 3-1, you're winning this game. You guys remember in January, I think it was Teravainen and Aho that teamed up on a shorthanded goal that made it 3-1 in the second period. New Jersey scored 2 late second period goals and 1 in the third period. So the start and that last 5-minute segment of the second period were particularly important in a very good Game 1 performance. We all know that New Jersey will be a much tougher opponent in Game 2.
Tripp, it's funny. I went to the skate yesterday, my first time in a minute now, and I didn't realize some of these new formats. And Rod is very interesting in the sense that if you ask him a very hockey-specific question, he has a great answer. The things you cannot ask Rod are questions about Rod. So I'm going to ask you a question about Rod. And that is, I look at Seth Jarvis last night, and that goal was spectacular. And to me, that's confidence. How does what did Rod do to get Seth going in that situation? Because I just, in my head, I had it, there was a talk there, or there was maybe a moment, and maybe with Rod, it's maybe even more subtle than that. But I think that's really one of his just superior strengths.
Joe, baby, outstanding question, a lot to get to there. First of all, what I love the most is that his goal started with responsible play as a winger on a defenseman, Graves, the defenseman, in his own end. So it's a 3-zone play that finishes with a highlight reel goal. Then Jarvis makes a goal-saving play before the third Carolina goal in the second period, and then a big-time defensive play before Aho set up Shea for the backbreaker. For me, he was the first star of the hockey game when you look at that. So excellent guy to talk about. With regards to Rod, first of all, he is a true player's coach from the standpoint that it's always going to be positive reinforcement. Occasionally, very occasionally, exception to the rule. If he ever has to challenge a player, whether it be in a one-on-one situation or in front of the team, he's always going to do it in a positive, non-throw you under the bus way. I remember Brett Hedican telling me the year that Rod captained the team in 2006, the Stanley Cup. You know, he was a true leader in what he said at critical times, but in Brett Hedican's view, he never threw a player under the bus. That is a talent that I think is very rare and exceptional. So that's what I think about with Rod. And the other guy I think you absolutely have to mention is Brett Burns in this conversation, because as elusive as the Stanley Cup has been, as likable of a teammate as he is, as mature of a veteran he is in his investment in the game, but yet simultaneously he's Tom Hanks from Big with his youthful energy. I wouldn't be surprised if Brent Burns has helped Seth at critical points too. But Rod has the ability, when he's sending a strong message, to do it in a positive way, and that is a very rare talent.
Tripp Tracy is hanging out with us here on Ovies and Giglio Bally Sports. The Canes are up 1-0 in this second round series. They started, it's goalie question time, Tripp. They started with Freddie.
Man.
Look, Joe gets on me about this stuff. It's fine.
Oh, man. I told you Rod ended all of this. He gave away the game in the first round. He said,
just give us a chance. Right. But see, I'm going to throw a curveball. I'm going to give a tip of the cap to Giglio on this one. With the way that the Canes were playing and it was just one shot, I mean, I'm pretty sure I might have had a chance last night. It was like E-Bugs, as Joe said, it's like E-Bug situation out there. I mean, they played that was a dominant first period. We'll get to why Freddie, but it was almost immaterial in the first period.
First period, yes. Second period, after Bastian scored and New Jersey was building the game I mentioned earlier, he probably made 2, maybe 3 saves right after that goal was scored. And then I mentioned that very important final segment to the second period started with a kill where they didn't give up anything. It was a stellar kill. But then in the last 2 minutes, I'm going to say Freddie made 2 goal line penetration saves that were big time, that would have changed the dynamic of the second intermission if, again, you don't get there any worse than 3-1. So those were very, very timely saves. I go back to a conversation. I didn't get to see you guys, your faces like I do now, but before the last game in Florida, and the three of us had a talk about the goaltending, and Carolina had just won at home against Detroit in their last home game, game 81. And I really felt like, and said it on our television broadcast that night, that Ronta was the guy to start because he had earned it. He had been so particularly stellar at home. At some point, you're going to go to Anderson. And the reason I really liked that chronology, and then Freddie wasn't healthy, through the course of the series until game 6. The reason that I love the decision so much is I think I've shared this with you guys before. The year Washington won the Cup, I'm sitting down having sushi with a woman in Florida, and Washington had dropped the first 2 games at home against Columbus. Barry Trotz had chosen, the Caps head coach, had chosen Philip Grubauer. And then they go to Hopi on the road down 2-0 in the first round. They haven't won a game. And it's going to overtime, and I'm having, some spicy tuna. And, and I said to her, I'm telling you, if Washington wins this game, they're winning the Stanley Cup. She goes, you're nuts. I said, well, yeah, I am nuts, but I strongly feel this way. And they did. And Hopi was a big part of it. And they, won their only Stanley Cup in franchise history. The reason I loved that and felt so strongly about that is, having played goal, not well, but when the guy who comes in second, people think it's pressure. It's actually less pressure because, Rod would say that, Freddie was never really a choice until game 6 because he wasn't healthy. No, I think there was a choice in game 1. And, Freddie coming in, he was brought in to be this guy. His ceiling is significantly higher than Auntie's. And I think it's less pressure. It's really, you're not going to be the guy that's pointed to if things don't go well, but you have a chance to really be the hero if things do go well. So the way it's worked out, you've only won one game in the second round.
Yeah.
But I love the way, we always talk about sequencing in Carolina's game. I love the sequencing of how this has played out because it's exactly how I hoped it would so far.
See, to me, I go back real quick, Joe, about
Tripp.
What's that, Joe?
I got big second round vibes though last night, Tripp. We saw this with that Islanders series in 19. Sometimes that second round can get away from you. They beat the Devils in one of those series too in 9, where it can go pretty quick on you.
Oh, okay. So
that's what last night felt like to me. Like,
okay,
here come the Canes.
Joe, let me set the stage because I'm on the bike jamming, texting with you guys to Gordon Lightfoot, God rest his soul.
All right, Gordon.
And now I'm thinking about, okay, let's just go to the second round against New Jersey in 2006 because you find yourself there again. The Devils had won 12 straight to end the regular season and then swept the New York Rangers in the first round. They come into Raleigh, so they've won. They've won 16 straight games. Carolina wins game 1 6-0. Thank you, Frank. And game 2, Scotty Gomez scores a 2-1 go-ahead goal with 21 seconds left in game 2. John Madden beats Rod so cleanly on the draw that I've asked Rod since, hey, did you lose that draw on purpose? He's like, no, I didn't. And it led to the puck being deep in the Carolina zone. First year of the trapezoid. If Brodeur had the ability to go out and play the puck, he goes out and plays it, game over. What it leads to, Whitney makes a great play. Williams eventually finds Eric Stahl right in front of the net, tie the game with a couple seconds left. Mickey Valleen scores in overtime. That was, without question, the swing of that series. You needed a short series to win the Stanley Cup when you had 4, and Carolina won decisively in 5. I think if New Jersey wins that game, they had a 2-1 lead in the last minute of regulation, they might have won the series. So when I think about last night, 5-1 versus 6-0, New Jersey just beat the Rangers. The Devils will be a lot better. Are we going to see a pendulum swinging moment, Joe? Like you said, these things can swing. That's the challenge. That's the formidable challenge, relying on the history in particular of these two teams and thinking about another second round between them in 2006.
Tripp Tracy, Bally Sports, hanging out with us here. I'm Joe Ovies. That's Joe Giglio. So I was going to go back. One point I wanted to make about goaltending before we move on and look ahead to game 2 on Friday night. See, to me, I think the story is, I get what you're saying about Freddie Anderson. That's why they brought him here. He has the higher ceiling. To me, I feel like Antti Raanta deserves some more flowers in that. And Rod said this. They know they can go to him. He's perfectly okay. He knows the role. Sometimes when you say know the role, people sometimes take it as some sort of insult. No, he's an ultimate team guy. He's liked on the team, and he knows that, look, fine, you want to go Freddie tonight? I'm here if you need me. I mean, is that not the epitome of Antti Raanta right now?
Both of them. I mean, they genuinely support each other. They both want the net. You want more alpha from both of them, and that's what grabbed me about Raanta in the first round. Is he wanted the net, and in his body language, in the way that he dealt in particular. I know the critical first 2 games he won at home, which he's done with regularity when you think about Boston, when you think about the Rangers, when you think about the Islanders, getting in front of series. He's the central part of that in the last several. But then when there was chaos on the road, not only did he have swagger, but he wanted the net. And so, you want a situation. Frank, are you weighing in on the goaltending situation?
Oh, I think he is. So this is why I keep the cats. I got the doors behind me. I keep the cats. Otherwise, they'd be crawling over the cameras and everything else.
If you're not watching on YouTube and you're listening on the podcast right now, Tripp Tracy is dealing with his dog. How old is your dog now?
Yeah, good question. He's a puppy at 11 months, so he's full
11
of 11
months.
And he's he's named after Frank Sinatra. He's a constant reminder my way wasn't working. And, and so he's a ball, but Antti has every argument right now. It's that simple. And if things didn't go well last night, I fully expect that Antti Raanta would be getting the starting game too. Now I'm rolling back with Anderson, but full confidence. Now with the way he played on the road. Full confidence in playing Ronta, if need be, at home or on the road. By the way, New Year's Day this year, to extend a long winning streak, he beat New Jersey on the road January 1st. So, and then I want to pose to you guys, as we talk about goaltending, you got to Schmidt early last night. You chased him. Vanacek played very well against Carolina in the regular season. I think Lindy's starting Vanacek tomorrow night.
I'm with you on that. I think he already had a shaky game 6, bounced back, but they demoralized him last night. I think they have to go back to the old guy. I mean, that's my thought.
I think
I'm going to just disagree. That I
right.
thought Schmidt was the difference in round 1, and he did bounce back. And I think that's why he pulled him when he did, to give him a chance, because that's the move. I think you go back to him now. Tripp, you've been mostly right about this stuff, but I think the way that he has lifted them, we'll see. Or maybe you see what happens, and if you have to go back to him in game 3 back at the Rock, maybe you do that.
Good question. My gut tells me he goes to Vanacek when I factor in the season series, and he was good last night, but you make a very sound argument. This is, I talked to Lindy yesterday in the morning about, because he's been around for a long, long time, and what his experiences have taught him about making adjustments and combining your head and your gut. And he said, hey, one of the biggest parts of it is, and he looked at the media and he said, you guys are all going to talk about it, is when you make a bad decision, one that doesn't work out, you can't lose any confidence in yourself. He's got a genuine decision for all of those factors that you just mentioned. I know New Jersey went down 2-0 in the first round on home ice against the Rangers, and we know what happened. Thinking about that 2006 second round, I feel very confident. And it's going to be a very formidable challenge tomorrow night. That if Carolina wins tomorrow night, they're winning this series.
We'll get you out on this. Tripp Tracy hanging out with us here. Jack Hughes you can easily focus on him when you don't have Timo Meier. So what is the status for Timo in game 2? Do we know?
That's the very Webster's dictionary definition of close to the vest. When I'm reading the tea leaves, Joe, day to day, I think that pure intuition.
Sure.
I see him potentially. I would guess no for Timo Meier.
Okay.
But I could be dead wrong. I'm going to go over to the rink this morning. I'll be curious to see if New Jersey practices. I'm guessing Carolina will not practice, and they'll have a morning skate. It's exactly what they did between games 1 and 2 in the first round. When you're on the road, you have a full day if you're really doing nothing. I don't know. They're still coming off that playoff series, so New Jersey could go either way. I know Lindy quite well after all these years. Very close to the vest. I feel like no on Meier, but I could be dead wrong. That's pure gut. And Jack Hughes, they kept him in check really, other than the second period, big time. That'll be a hard thing to do, and he'll be a tougher guy to deal with, the game changer that he is in the remainder of the series.
Tripp Tracy, Bally Sports. Once again, we appreciate your time as always. And Tripp, since we were actually talking, you can see me. Truly appreciate all your help over the years on the radio side of things, and I'm glad that we could do this visually now and keep doing it.
I know you guys got to keep rolling with this new podcast, and congratulations on it. I wish you the best of luck, and I have tremendous gratitude to you both because of your support. But it's so much easier when you guys always ask really, really good, poignant, time-relevant question. Hey, I'm not blowing smoke.
No, I appreciate it.
I am freezing my ass off at Carter Finley, the outdoor game, because I didn't dress warm enough. So I went up a couple of times. It's my first time ever in Carter Finley. And
all these years, that was the first time I did not know that.
Yeah. So I go up. I don't even know where the press box is. So I go up and I'm having a coffee, trying to warm up. And I was actually, the only place I could hear you guys was in the bathroom up on and you were interviewing Tom Dundon.
Yeah.
And it was just a sensational interview, from the two of you and Tom. It was all the questions that everybody wanted to have asked. Tom gave great answers.
Always does.
And you guys, it was a terrific interview. You thawed me right out. Then I went down and I froze. I needed the heater in my car for 35 minutes after the game. But I really appreciate the fact that you guys always ask what the questions are that I think all the people, whether they're watching or listening, that they want to have posed.
Tripp, we appreciate it. I know you got another thing to do, and obviously you got to take care of Frank as well. We'll talk to you later. All right.
Okay, boys.
That's Tripp Tracy hanging out with us here on Ovies and Giglio.
Oh, gee.
You're very thrown off by these, Joe. I like them. I like all like the weird little oh gee. I think they're funny.
We have a Rand rap now. We just need the Rand barbershop quartet. Like, we'll be right back. We're transition. I don't know why I'm going falsetto.
Yeah, why are you doing that?
It's time for a new topic.
Actually, we might need that. We need that from. We definitely need that from Graham. All right, back to the NFL draft. Did you know that dinner sealed the deal, Joe? Did you know that?
Sure. It's got nothing to do with how he played at Alabama.
Nope.
Or like I said, that Nick Saban, who would curse out his own mother to win a football game, never said one single cross word about the kid in 2 years as his starter. But
no, absolutely not. It was all about dinner over at ProFootballTalk.com. This was a Tuesday interview with Mike Florio. He addressed the manner in which the team decided to take Young. I'm going to zoom in here so that people can see it on the YouTube. And this is my favorite part. Okay, here we go. Fitter was asked whether there was a moment for him where Bryce Young emerged as the right choice. Quote, the one thing that stands out is probably at dinner the night before his pro day. We're sitting in a restaurant and we're talking to him. And this is the first time, you've interviewed him at the combine in an 18-minute interview window. We talked to him at other places, but this was the time you really got to see him in a social setting. And we're sitting around the table. We're just really getting to know the guy. And he's holding court. We had a couple-hour dinner with him. And as you're sitting there at dinner, you're looking at this guy. And I'm thinking in my head the whole time, okay, is this the right guy for us? Is this the guy we want kind of being our face? Is he the one we want leading our team? And he was so impressed with his dinner and his command of the dinner table. Quote, if you put this guy in a huddle, this is the guy that we're going to put in the huddle and the game's on the line. And that was just the presence he felt while at dinner. That's a hell of a date, Joe. I mean, you put the ring on it right there. I don't know did you ever just fall in love, boom, right there at dinner like that?
I really hope it works out. Scott Fitterer and the Panthers, because that is now going to be in the Mitch Trubisky, grandma's Toyota. I mean, that makes a great leader. That makes a great selfless. No, guys, you want to tell me he played great at Alabama? Awesome.
Yeah.
Don't.
Yeah.
No.
So Fitterer's been doing the interview rounds. I think he talked to Gold this week, and I know he talked to Josh Graham over at WSJS. And here's a portion of what Fitterer told Josh as it relates to getting Bryce Young, like the moment it happened, and how the rest.
I'm watching Frank and Josh talk to Bryce in the middle of the field, and it was just like a moment. It's like, wow, this is real. This is no longer, we're not scouting him. We're not at Alabama having dinner with him. He's ours now. And it was a really good feeling, because not only the quarterback, but the person and what this does for the fan base. Everybody's so excited about him, and he is the type of guy that we want in our locker room and, being up front for us.
In the NFL, everyone remembers who goes number one in the draft. Bryce is now part of that history. He's, I think, the 10th to win a Heisman Trophy and then become the number one pick. When you look at the history of number one guys, there's usually one attribute that stands out from the rest. Looking at recent examples, Joe Burrow, his swagger, that quick pull trigger. Kyler Murray had that elite speed. Since it seems so many have focused since he was drafted on the one thing he doesn't have, what's one trait that separates him from most of the quarterback prospects you've seen over the years?
His ability to slow the game down in his mind, see the fields, and go through his progression. He has that poise in the pocket that's rare. and it makes sense for him. He makes it look easy back there. He never looks stressed, and that's what the great ones do. And he's not a big guy, but he's got some really rare traits that you need to play that position, and he is special from the neck up.
Let me know, though, when you're watching film, how does it become clear to you after watching hours of tape over the last 2 decades, looking at guys, that the game has slowed down? Is there something specific you can point to on Bryce's tape that kind of wows you from a scouting perspective?
Yeah, when he's under pressure in the pocket, in the SEC, there's a lot of big rushers, a lot of great players, and he's standing in the pocket. He never turns his shoulders. His eyes are downfield. He dips and he ducks. But if you watch his face mask, it never drops. He's always, going right through the progression, looking downfield, and that's what sets the great ones apart.
So that was Scott Fitterer, general manager of the Carolina Panthers, with Josh Graham over at WSJS. Nothing about dinner in that sequence, Joe, but maybe one day we can talk to Fitterer, and we'll get an idea. You're just shaking your head.
Reasons,
you're just shaking your head.
Couldn't kink shame.
One last note about the draft. Are we going to learn any lessons from Will Levis in his fall?
About in terms
of
the
stop
gambling
obsessing with
stuff,
gambling lines.
or
Just just stop obsessing with gambling lines, man. Just stop with it. A lot of people got with that.
Yeah.
And also it shows you too that it just kind of crystallizes a point that I made for months. Smoke screens, man. Everybody has their moments, and everybody tries to convince themselves, because the draft content has to be made. So you give a guy his time, and you sort of talk up why he's. Now, that's not to say that as a second rounder, Will Levis might not pan out, but the chances of a second rounder panning out are very, very slim, even though we do have some examples like Jalen Hurts most recently, who was a second round pick.
I'll close the draft conversation with this. I like the Mingo pick. Big target, 6'2", 225, great size, played for Lane Kiffin. They've had a track record of getting athletes. I'm thinking specifically of DK Metcalf right now. I don't know if he's off the charts like that, but I thought that was well worth the second round pick. And, me, my big concern in that trade was how much they gave up. If they can hit a little bit of a scratch here in the second round with Mingo, then that could really solidify their offense.
All right, let's get to some Hey Joe questions. Unfortunately, the Twitter desktop app is down, so okay. I had to literally screen grab Hey Joe questions, and we'll just go through there. All right, this is coming.
Hang on.
Whoa,
I'll give you a little intro.
What?
Joe cracked the dawn.
Okay, cool. All right, this one comes from Jeremy. What's the over/under on swear words per episode? I'm pretty sure we have not done one yet today.
We have not. We'll probably have to. I'll probably have to be heated to get to the F word Rubicon as well. But so far we got one.
I did hear from a listener who said he would appreciate it if we didn't go all in, because he does listen to the show with the kids. So we'll do our best. Let's put it this way. It'll be special occasions when we decide.
Yeah, it'd probably be motivated, right?
Plus, look, man, I've basically trained my brain for 22 years to not curse in this setting. I mean, for heaven's sake, I'm finding myself resetting like we're coming back from a break, even though there are no breaks. But maybe there will be with ads later. All right, we got David. After scoring a goal, Seth Jarvis said in intermission he watched Entourage between rounds 1 and 2. Is there anything more Seth Jarvis than that? I caught that because I watched the game at home last night. And no, I cannot think of anything more Seth Jarvis than in 2023, in the year of our Lord, he's watching Entourage.
Again, my favorite player on the Canes is Jordan Stahl. That will not change. But my second is definitely Seth Jarvis.
From Flair, YouTube channel, monetized in 30 days or longer. I think it's going to take less than that. A little housekeeping here. We're approaching, as of this recording, 2,000 subscribers on YouTube. Thank you for that. Thank you for that, for everybody who answered the call.
You have to do something for 1,000, you said, right? It was the Cuban.
Yeah, so I'm going to have that Cuban biscuit, and then shout out to Brian over at Nice Price, who secured another that 1993 Panthers soda. Okay. So that's when we get to 2,000. So I'm backed up. Like, I got to do the Cuban biscuit, and I'm going to drink this soda.
Wait, we also have the old beer still.
Yes, we do have the old beers. Maybe we save that for 3,000.
Okay.
But yes, we're going to continue doing dumb bits as we get to markers like this. So we're already down 2 Cuban
Okay.
biscuit and the 93 Panthers soda, 30-year-old soda. All right, so yes. Anyway, long story short, you have to get to 1,000 subscribers and X amount of hours viewed to turn on monetization on Twitter on YouTube.
Hey Joe, how about this? When we go to the Raleigh Times today and meet
Yeah.
with Greg Hayden, the challenge will be for me to order something other than the pork nachos. And
Good luck with that.
promise you,
Good luck
our
with that.
streak will continue.
Good luck with that. Now, and also
20,000 subscribers for me not to get the nachos at Raleigh Times. Like, there's no chance.
With Red Circle as a platform, there's monetization availability. I know a lot of people have been asking about things like Patreon or subscriptions. Look, and Joe's heard me say this a bunch of times. I'm just trying to get the content out there. I make the content. I don't know how to make money on the content.
We're working on that.
We're working on that. But Red Circle as a podcast platform has an opportunity for you to donate. And I will admit, I got a little emotional yesterday as the donations were coming in. And essentially, a little housekeeping. I told you we'd be transparent on this podcast about where things are financially and everything else and what we're doing. So we've made enough money through donations alone to pay for a year's worth of hosting on Red Circle and a year's worth of using the tier that I have on StreamYard. And more importantly, I can go ahead and buy Adobe Creative Suite. So very excited about these things. So again, I can't do any of that stuff without that. So, I mean, I've already sunk the cost, I'm saying, but I've recouped the cost thanks to the credit card's getting a workout, man. So anyway, so appreciate everybody who has donated through Red Circle. All right, from LK. What up, LK? Prolific top 4 contributor. Will Lauren Brownlow be on? Of course, Lauren, that Brownlow lady will be on. I actually talked to Lauren the other day if she'd be interested in doing something on Substack or whatever email platform we have, because that'll probably be in the future. And of course, she's on board with that. So yes, we will be talking to Brownlow in the near future. All right, from Steve.
Whoa.
What?
I mean, I can't wait to work with Lauren again because you and I both enjoy her work and her wit and personality. Quick shout out. You mentioned Adobe. Quick shout out to Laura. She's over at the Wolfpack Club yesterday on our initial launch there. And we should have called it episode 0. We screwed up with that. We talked about 919 Vice being kind of a new version of your beer podcast that would include Wayne and Adam, where you would have not just beer, but liquor and spirits and distilleries and dispensaries. And 919 Vice, I said, man, you better come up with some sort of logo with the Miami Vice logo. Well, you ask,
dude,
ye shall receive. Laura, and I sent you the logo, and I cannot wait
for you
to unveil that logo. She did such an awesome job. But she did say, you can use it. It's fine. I'm happy to have you. There's only one rule, though. You cannot change your chicken scratch yellow pad logo for the pod itself. And I said, it's a deal.
No, yeah, we're not going to change that. There might be variations on the doodles, but yeah, we're sticking with that as an aesthetic. And yes, thank you so much for that 919 Vice. And really, it's a lot of people who've stepped up and reached out about ways that can help. And if I haven't responded to you yet, it's not because I'm ignoring. It's just that there's a lot to get through, and I'm trying to get back to everybody. So from Steve, speaking of people who reached out, he's asking who was the most unexpected person to reach out after the fact, after last week. What about you, Joe?
You mean like famous person or
unexpected? Unexpected.
I did not expect to hear from blank.
Yeah.
I will say I did not take many phone calls on Wednesday, but our friend Bomani Jones was one of them.
Yeah.
And that was while he was getting us a little bit, I did appreciate him reaching out. So I don't know if it was unexpected, but it was very welcomed.
Yeah.
And that was about the only phone call other than my wife and my parents that I took on Wednesday. So I appreciate both.
Fair enough. I honestly, I was not expecting to hear from Jim Phillips, ACC commissioner. I was not expecting that.
Yeah.
we appreciated that. And I'm sure we'll be talking to Jim at some point here in the summer. The plan is to go to ACC kickoff in July. From Mikey, on top of being the kid's personal driver, which I've definitely done this week, what's the top 3 little things y'all did with the unexpected time off? Joe?
Yeah, I actually had to take days off earlier this spring to go see my kids participate in high school sports. So that was awesome. I believe it or not, I haven't played that much golf.
Yeah.
I know you don't believe that, but it was kind of crazy. Like the first 2 days, it rained, and I'm like, really? Like, really? Like,
yeah. Well, that's how it's been. The pattern has been, it's been a weird pattern where it's like gorgeous during the week and it's crap during the weekends where it's going to rain. We're going to have another instance of that. You know what I did that was unexpected? I took a nap.
Oh, Joe. Joe.
I don't nap. I don't nap.
I know you don't.
I do not nap. But yesterday, I actually took a nap.
I'm all about that nap life, man.
All right. From Nate, can we still play the mixtape? Well, Joe, you had an idea for the mixtape.
I do have an idea for the mixtape. I also have an idea for the Tumbler.
Okay.
Or a different maybe prize. But I think people know us for the Tumbler. So
we have to keep doing the Tumbler.
Probably something there.
Yeah.
But I think, given our restrictions for rights-free music.
Yes.
Although, did you see there is like a subscription for you can actually buy the rights to music?
Yeah. But music,
it's not prohibitive.
Yeah, but music can be expensive. That's why I try to avoid it. But I know what you're saying.
No, I know, but there is something. I'll send you the link that Jessica found for me.
I'll check it out.
It's not that. It's like $30 a month or something like that.
Oh, okay.
But there, I think in the interim, while we try to come up with some of those funds, I think it would be hysterical to read the lyrics until the person can identify
the song.
Yeah,
I like that
might
idea.
require like a special guest appearance, like somebody with an amazing voice. Like maybe we can hit up Tori Holt to like read the lyrics to like to the window, to the wall, or in that dry. Just
no! Shout out to Tony Rigsby, PA for the Durham Bulls. Get him to do it.
Could be.
It's funky like a batch of old collard greens.
Yes,
that would be great.
I think there's something there. We may have to extend the time.
I mean, hey, hey, look, David Crabtree reached out to me. Crabber would absolutely use his big TV announcer voice for such a thing.
That's got potential.
He's got potential in
that up though. So we'll
from Samuel, will both of you be able to get credentialed for Big Four school events, football, basketball? Yes, I realize that's a boring question, but if you're still able to maintain some sort of access, well, I mean, you were there last night for the Canes game. The schools that we work with are fully aware of what's going on, and obviously, if we build up enough of a following, which I think we've done a pretty good job of it. There's no, or I should say this: 10 years ago, no, probably not. 10 years ago, no. But the media game has changed so much that I'm going to be absolutely blunt when I say this. I know who gets credentialed to sporting events. There's no reason why we can't get credentialed. You follow my drift?
Yeah, there's certain things that to be perfectly honest and share some insight from the Canes, if the Canes win this round and Toronto is the opponent, well, the world travels with Toronto, and they're going, that's where you're going to have that. They would give us a credential where we'd have to sit in the press room. It's happened before at Duke. It's not that big of a deal.
It's not that big of a deal.
But they would the one thing Mike Sondheim told me yesterday, hey, as long as you produce content, we'll give you a credential.
Yeah, man. We'll be producing content. We'll be producing content.
We can handle that. And then I will say, the people who have reached out from North Carolina, the people who have reached out from NC State, they've all been, it's been, appreciate all of their support. Then this gets back to what you said yesterday, which was when you reach out to us and say, hey, how can I help? Well, here we come.
That's how you help. And again, you're right. People I've talked to from NC State, Duke, and Carolina will be more than helpful in the ACC as well. So I don't expect us not being able to kind of continue what we're doing. And that's been the message. We're just going to keep doing what we're doing, just, without that radio thing. From Kinchin, what would you rather do? 9 hot dogs, 9 beers, 9 innings, or a Krispy Kreme 10K, which would be 2 dozen donuts. No, I've already done the Krispy Kreme challenge, which is a dozen donuts and a 5K. And I barely was able to do that under an hour. There's no way I'm doing a 10K and 2 dozen donuts. I would probably do 9 beers because the pandemic drinking got me up to weight on that. So I'd probably do 9 beers on that one.
You know, I cannot do 9 beers.
No, I know you can't.
So I can do 9 hot dogs.
Yeah, you can do 9 hot dogs.
Oh,
I think
yeah,
you can
I
do
would
9
do
hot
9
dogs on the golf course, no less. That's your jam. All right, we'll close this. We'll close out with a serious question from John. Was the first period in this game a Rod special? The other team doesn't record a shot in the defensive zone. Meanwhile, when the Canes are on the other side of the ice, all they do is just go straight, get by a whole bunch of and get a whole bunch of chances. I would say so. Yes.
It was really impressive. It's hard to beat the Canes at their own game. And going into this series, Rod had talked about how this will be different than what the Islanders were trying to do. And styles make fights. And the results so far after game 1 are impressive for the Canes.
All right, we'll close on this. My goal is to kind of keep these things anywhere between 45 minutes to an hour, and I'm very much on brand by blowing the clock again. We're already over an hour, but I wanted to do this because you know what day it is, Joe?
It's your favorite day. It's May the 4th.
May the 4th be with you. I'm wearing the Darth Vader shirt if you're watching on YouTube. I got my little Star Wars Kenner figures, a little canteen. So I would like to play a game with you. Would you like to play a game, Joe?
Yes.
Okay,
yeah.
Let's play a game. This is, let me pull it up on the screen here. Very excited to play Star Wars character or Wells Fargo golfer. Now, I feel like you might nail this because you're pretty good because of your gambling tendencies to know a bunch of random ass golfers. Okay, but this is a true test. All right, are you ready? Okay.
Yeah.
Star Wars character or Wells Fargo golfer? Austin Greaser.
Carolina golfer.
Ding, 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 ding. He is a UNC guy. Got that one right. Okay, next up, Garrick Higo.
South African golfer.
How? That is such a Star Wars name. Like Garrick Higo is like a guy who had like a cameo in one of the movies, and then he shows up on Andor, and then my Twitter timeline blows up. Like, did you see where Garrick Higo was in the backgroround?
You would love him. He's a lefty.
Okay, all right, fair enough. Okay, Jack Porkins.
He's one of the pilots, I think.
Look at you. Yes, Porkins unfortunately gets blown up. C.O. Bibble.
Somebody from the cantina.
No, actually, he was one of the advisors for Queen Amidala on Naboo.
Oh, yeah, Star Wars.
Okay, all right. And we have Seamus Power.
Shout out to our friend Josh Goodson. No man should have Seamus Power, Irish golfer.
Boy. All right, okay, man, you're really on this. You were on this. I'm a little disturbed. How about Sepp Straka?
Sepp Straka, he's either Swiss or Czech. Went to Georgia, actually.
You're crushing these. You are absolutely crushing these. Wolf Yaloren.
Well, there is a golfer called what is the Wolf's name? Matthew Wolf.
Yeah.
But no, there is no Wolf Yaloren on the PGA Tour. So that is hopefully you'll get to somebody who was like,
no, that's it. That's the last one.
I was gonna say, hopefully there's somebody from the Solo movie and my girl Khaleesi, but
no. Wolf Yaloren's the last one. He's a higher up in the Empire, and everybody was really excited to see Wolf Yaloren in the first season of Andor. And of all the names, of all those names, Wolf Yaloren is the most obscure golfer name that I thought I was going to be able to get over on you, but your gambling prowess is just impeccable that you know all these guys. I thought I'd get you on Sepp Straka. Like, that is such a Star Wars thing.
I've won a bet on Sepp Straka before.
All right, well, that answers that.
You'll enjoy this terminology. He has good odds in 3-ball action.
Never tell me the odds, Joe. And on that, we wrap up episode 2 of Ovies and Giglio. Shout out to everybody who's given us 5 stars. Just overwhelming the support. We appreciate that. We're going to keep this thing going. We're going to get into a normal broadcast schedule next week, where we will go Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, because who the hell wants to work on a Friday? Plus, that's probably when the beer podcast will come out. But Monday, Wednesday, Thursday. We'll see you all next week.